Good day and welcome back to another DB Legends video. In this video we're going to be taking a look at the Zenkai for Red Vegeta Giant Ape, or Vegeta I guess, who turns into a giant ape. Not really, but you know what I mean. Basically this is the Red Vegeta and we're going to take a look at his Zenkai. Now he's a Legends Limited character, so usually these Zenkais are pretty good, but yeah, let's get a good feel for exactly just how good his Zenkai can be. Now, of course, a lot of the times these are just percentage changes, but we'll get a good feel going into things. So here, there's not too much that was changed. Basically, it's just a very straightforward remainder on the ultimate skill. Nothing has actively changed there. Pretty simple stuff. So no real big difference there. Next, we take a look at the special move. Now, the special move has had a slight adjustment. It's now plus 20% to special move damage instead of plus 15%, which is pretty important. And then, of course, we continue to have the reduction of 5 to the substitution timer count. But we also now have a minus 10% to health recovery or restoration for the enemy as well, which is, I would say pretty helpful. In terms of the main ability, nothing too crazy. Basically, relatively simple stuff here. 15% to 20% health recovery, which is obviously quite nice. And then we have pretty much everything else remaining the same. So still with 60% ultimate damage, still with that plus 20% to Saiyans and Son family, so pretty good stuff. The special skill ability, again, also nothing too wild changed here, pretty much exactly the same as it was before. So drawing a special move arts card, this can now activate twice, which is pretty cool. And then of course alongside that, everything else is pretty much remained the same, except it's now a 10 timer count instead of a 5 timer count on the notification of enemy special actions, which is pretty cool. It's also comboable, but this was always the case before, so pretty simple stuff. Obviously, we have the limited Z ability, which was added in. This is irrelevant from the Zenkai. And in terms of the actual Zenkai ability, we have Red and Powerful Opponent, which is pretty cool, pretty interesting, quite an interesting change, I would say. At least overall. Next, we have the unique abilities. Now, in terms of the first unique ability, doesn't appear to be too much ostensibly changed. I think for the most part they've left it relatively the same without changing too much. So we do have now plus 30% to damage inflicted. It still scales up to 60%, but just stacks up a little bit faster, which I think is fine. And yeah, in general we don't get too many changes here. I think overall they made a pretty decent kind of functionality, which is really good. We do get the following effects if we get a vanishing stare from the enemy though, which is pretty good to get. Then in terms of overwhelming power level, again, nothing too crazy here. Pretty simple stuff for the most part. Again, kind of remaining relatively the same. I would say nothing too crazy. We do have obviously the plus 15% still, same for 20 timer counts. However, when you reach 0 now, or when your own health reaches 0, you do have the restoration by 20% and then reducing the enemy key, which is new. You also get the attribute downgrade as well, which is quite new as well, which is pretty interesting. And then in terms of the opposition, basically it's pretty simple stuff with inflicting attribute downgrade and basically just controlling the enemy when they revive. So then we come to the new abilities, and the first is Peerless Elite. This one randomly destroys one card, seals one card slot randomly. The sealed card slot can not be used for 5 timer counts. Seals Rising Rush for obviously 3 turns or so, but pretty good stuff. And then we get Combat Genius, which basically gives a whole bunch of buffs depending on the timer counts that have gone down, which makes them a lot stronger depending on how many timer counts have passed, with peaking at 40 timer counts, which isn't too far into the battle, but it is pretty Pretty simple and pretty easy stuff. So yeah, straightforward, honestly, quite reliable. I would say really good stuff. And yeah, for the most part, honestly quite consistent. So that basically covers his Zenkai. I think overall some good changes. I do think they kind of gave him enough to become relevant again. We'll have to see who the red powerful opponent applies to. It usually applies to the secondary unit of the celebration. We do have, of course, his Zenkai Rush Battle, which, you can, of course, partake in to get 3,000 of his Zenkai Awakening Power. And then you also have his missions, which drop 4,000. If you're impatient, you can summon for his Zenkai Awakening Power. Or you can wait for it to, if you're super patient, you can wait for it to go to the Ultra Space Time Rush store, which it will pop up in with the next season. Now, in terms of, basically who gets boosted by his Zenkai ability, I think this is super important. The boost from his Zenkai ability applies to a couple interesting characters. The most notable probably being Hit, the Ultra Red Hit. I think he's, probably up there with the units that benefit from this Zenkai. And yeah, I think overall he's pretty straightforward. Pretty good stuff. You also get the Legends Limited Cooler, who benefits from this. Legends Limited Zamasu, who I think could also get a Zenkai at some point. And you also have, I would say pretty much these guys, and then obviously Legends Limited 17 and 18 are a pretty good choice. But I would say these are probably the peak in terms of the choices for the actual Zenkai. But yeah, that's basically it from me. Honestly, seems pretty good overall. Let me know what you guys think about Vegeta Zenkai down below. And yeah, bye.